Meta AI is the personal AI to help you with whatever you need. Plus, it meets you where you are. Not only is Meta AI now an app, but it's also on the apps you already know and love: Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Plus the Ray-Ban Meta glasses. It's easy to access wherever you are. So whether you're talking or texting, Meta AI is convenient to use throughout your day. Experience our newest AI that's tailored to you by downloading the Meta AI app. Try the Meta AI app today on the Apple App Store and Google Play.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in our first VIP guest. She is the author to national bestsellers, Laptop from Hell, and, of course, The Big Guy, How a President and His Son Sold Out America. You can buy both on Amazon or wherever you get books, obviously, also with the New York Post. A great columnist, Miranda Devine. Miranda, how are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm really well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. So you are on a roll lately. I mean, you have this great podcast called Podforce One. You had the President Trump on last week. Now you got Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. I mean, you're getting the biggest guests on these shows. What did Mr. Bessent have to tell you as far as the big, beautiful bill and overall how the economy is doing?
Thanks, Joe. Look, Scott Bessent was absolutely fantastic, very open about everything to do with the economy and, his relationship with Donald Trump, etc. And Elon Musk. He had a bit of a sort of shouting match with him. And
can I interrupt you there? What happened there? I mean, was there actually pushing and shoving like we've seen, the reports from unnamed sources? I never know what to believe whenever I see an unnamed source, but there definitely was a confrontation, and it could have been physical.
There was a confrontation. I think that the physicality came just from Elon Musk, just with a bit of a shove. But certainly the shouting, the president confirmed it. Sort of, he snickered a little bit and said, "Oh well, these things happen." And I asked Scott Bessent about it, and he said, "Oh, well, we did have our disagreements." And then he described Elon Musk as like a Viking, and described himself as more of a ninja who sort of comes up from the water, fires, and then submerges again. So in the end, Elon Musk is not in the White House anymore, so I guess Scott Bessent won. But, yes. I mean, look, Elon Musk, his time, he only was meant to do 130 days, and he did rub a lot of people up the wrong way. He just, he had a different style about him that didn't really translate very well to Washington.
And we're talking to Miranda Devine, and exactly. I mean, he's definitely a unique character, outside the box kind of guy. He's a tech guy who went into Twitter, cut 80% of its workforce and had it run better, and obviously was able to cut costs. And I think he thought he could do that with government, but it doesn't quite work that way because obviously compromise has to be made when you have, for instance, in the Congress, basically Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, only has a one-vote margin. I mean, Thomas Massie you can never count on, so it's basically one vote. And then in the Senate, it's only 3 votes. So you can't do at a private company what you could do with the federal government because, unfortunately, there are numbers and there are ideologies that don't have anything to do with doing the right thing, particularly from the Democratic side. And I think Elon Musk learned that in a hurry. I do want to talk about, as far as this mayoral race, you've been with the New York Post for many years. You are somebody who works in New York on a daily basis. I do as well. I can't vote there. I'm from New Jersey. I live in New Jersey, but I see what's going on here. And I see Andrew Cuomo, who killed all those people, 13,000, 15,000, by sending them to nursing homes during COVID. Obviously, the sexual harassment allegations, that's what put him away. But I think it was a combination of things. So that's not, my ideal candidate. And then I see, Zohran Mamdani, who is, a declared socialist, a guy who tried to... He literally, defended globalize the intifada, which means kill all the Jews. And he tried to explain it as something that, well, no, actually, it's all about equity. Well, no, it's not, actually. I see these choices, and I say, can't New York do better? The greatest city in the world, where it's supposed to be, the most complex city in the world. That's certainly for sure. And these are the choices that we have. It's just remarkable to me. As a New Yorker, you watch this, and what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, it's just sad and so disappointing after, we endured the awful double reign of Bill de Blasio, who, you could see the city just declining around you with, his pot-smoking craziness. And then, Eric Adams, it was a minor improvement, I have to say, coming from a very low base. But, I mean, look, they're supposed to be cleaning out these migrant hotels, illegal alien hotels, because Donald Trump's closed the border and is deporting or trying to deport everyone, but this is a sanctuary city. So they are moving them out of the hotels, but then they're moving them into homeless shelters that are meant for New Yorkers. And it's still going to cost, they're budgeting $1 billion a year for it. So really, it's not much of an improvement. And but I mean, if you think that Bill de Blasio and Eric Adams were bad, just wait till you have Zoran Mamdani. I mean, you could not have a worse person. Total out-and-out socialist. He's only been a citizen for 7 years, and yet the arrogance of the man, thinking that he's going to decide how the rest of us live and put his sort of fake moral outrage on us, bawling his eyes out about ICE, etc. And then, I mean, I can see that people would be lulled into thinking that Andrew Cuomo is the competent kind of moderate guy. But that's not the way he was when he was governor. He was the guy who ushered in bail reform, so-called, which just let loose this disaster with violent crime. He, as you said, killed all the poor people in the nursing homes with his incompetent, stupid nursing home order, which he's lied about ever since. So, I mean, it's out of the frying pan into the fire. There is not a good choice on the Democrat side, and unfortunately, it's always Democrats. I mean, you can always hope that the Republican candidate, Curtis Sliwa, can get up, but he hasn't had much luck so far.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're talking to Miranda Devine that we're almost speaking about whoever wins this primary as the next mayor of New York. And Governor Pataki, obviously a Republican from earlier this century, he came out and publicly said that he thinks that Curtis Sliwa does have a shot here because the Democratic choice may be that bad. If Cuomo were to win, I'd say Sliwa's chances are lower just because of name brand recognition, the fact that he ran the state. He ran it poorly, but when he was in office up until the nursing homes, he was relatively popular, and that appears to be the base that's fueling him now as far as having a lead over Mamdani. But I think if Mamdani somehow pulls this out, and I don't know if he can, I think that globalized infantada answer that he had was so horrible that when you look back on campaigns and you say, what was the difference? Like with Kamala Harris, you say, what was the real turning point for her? It was when she went on The View. And then when asked, what would you do differently from Joe Biden over the last 4 years? And she looks to the sky and says, nothing really comes to mind. That was the end of her campaign. I declared it on Fox at that time. On that day, I said, it's over. And now the same thing with Mamdani, I think, with that comment. But if he were to win somehow, I think, given the choices between basically a communist who obviously is very sympathetic towards Hamas, a guy who wants to freeze rents, which is not going to work. It just, we've tried this before in the Soviet Union and in Cuba. It does not work. And a guy who has publicly declared over and over again that he wants to defund the police. I think then Sliwa has a puncher's chance, but only if Mamdani is the opponent. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I guess. I mean, the problem is that there's such a low turnout in New York. Maybe Mamdani would stir people to vote against him, sensible people. But, I mean, you look at the Democratic primary, the latest polls show that this outright crazy socialist is catching up to Andrew Cuomo. And, that's in part because I guess people are opening their eyes up to who Cuomo really is. But seriously, given the choice, as bad as Cuomo is, I think Mamdani is just such a menace. At least Cuomo is the devil we know. God knows what Mamdani would do if he was empowered with the vote. You have a voter turnout of less than 20% in the last mayoral race.
Was it that low? Wow, really?
Yeah,
1 in 5.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
1 in 5. Yeah, 21%. So, I guess, New Yorkers just give up. They just figure, it's the game is rigged. The Democrats have got it. Just go about your business and try to live your life or move out.
That is more, and it's true. A lot are moving out, and we're talking to Miranda Devine. We saw this week, Miranda, Democrats refusing to show up for a hearing, basically trying to get to the bottom of how the cover-up happened. It wasn't much of a cover-up. You and I talked about it on Fox for years as far as Joe Biden's brain turning to applesauce. But Republicans wanted answers, and Democrats didn't show up. You've written 2 books on the man. I wrote a book on Biden as well. Are you surprised that Democrats just want to turn the page, move on, and forget what happened, which I would say, and I don't use hyperbole very often for the sake of, cable news or talk radio making these big pronouncements, but I think this was the biggest scandal of our lifetimes as far as a man being in the Oval Office who didn't know he was in the Oval Office.
Yes, and, the cover-up, I think the cover-up was twofold. It was covering up Joe Biden's cognitive issues, decline, and also covering up his corruption. And it is a huge scandal. And as you say, it's much bigger than, say, Watergate that we've carried on about for so many years. And seeing the Democrats walk out of that hearing, I think it's typical because they know that they are going to be embarrassed because it was up to them, it was up to those senators, those congressmen to actually blow the whistle and do something about Joe Biden. They saw him. We saw what he was like from the outside. They were there on the inside. They did have moments when they could meet with him, and we know that because a few of them have talked about it, where he was completely addled and out of it. So they are now embarrassed. It's a cop-out. They don't want to be held accountable, but I think they need to be. And I hope that the Republicans in Congress actually, in Senate and the House, actually do a proper job of investigating this. The use of the auto pen alone it's fraud. And as Donald Trump told me, you can tell if the auto pen's being used because there are 2 tiny pinholes in the paper. And if people were around Joe Biden, were signing his name on executive orders and other actions that he didn't know about or they didn't inform him about or he wasn't able to understand, then that was fraud and they should go to jail for it. So this needs to be a serious inquiry. And, John Woo, who I was on Kudlow with a little while ago, we were chatting afterwards, and he said that there ought to be a proper special counsel investigation. This should be bipartisan because we can never let this happen again. It's so dangerous, so consequential. This isn't just looking in the rearview mirror. What happened under Joe Biden's presidency, we have to live with for years the damaging effect, whether it's the 15 to 20 million illegal aliens that now we're going through all sorts of conniptions to deport, or whether it's the problems with Iran. None of that would have happened if it hadn't been for Joe Biden re-energizing Iran with billions of dollars.
That's right. And you brought up a word before that's a foreign concept in Washington, Miranda, and we'll leave it here, bipartisan. That just does not happen anymore with the Democratic Party, who screams about no kings but wants one-party rule. Anyway, we got to go, unfortunately. They're in my ear. But I really appreciate you joining on this Sunday morning, Miranda, and certainly congratulations to Pod Force One. Keep up the great guests, and anytime you want me to join there as a backup to the backup, I'm your guy.
For sure. Thanks so much, Joe, and good luck with the show.
Thank you, Miranda. And this is the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation Show. Back with more in just a moment.
The Judge Janine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.